Welcome back to Pop Tabs, keeping tabs on all of your pop culture news. I'm your host, Matthew Yapp, and joining me today is...
Eli Sokeland.
And...
Emily Reuben.
It's both of you guys' first time here. Are you just so excited?
It's not like I had anything better to do today.
And I'm not excited because we're talking about Cardi B. And she's not my favorite, but I'm kind of with her on this one. Basically what happened is she was recently a part of a music video by the City Girls called Twerk, and in it she twerks. And there's just a lot of women in like bathing suits, things of the sort, and they're dancing. And so Stephanie Hamill tweeted out saying, quote, "In the era of #MeToo, how exactly does this empower women? Leftist I am Cardi B? That's Cardi B. Feel free to chime in." And now she's spoken out for the movement before and has always been very vocal on women's rights. So a lot of people have thought that this was kind of a really big dig on her. What are you guys' thoughts?
Okay, we have to have this conversation like 5 times a month. And like, I just don't understand when we're gonna realize feminism does not equate to not twerking.
Yeah.
You can be the biggest feminist in the world and you can twerk because dancing is not sexist. Like, it's so strange to me because I guess the conversation could be, we have these female entertainers that are being run by corporations owned by males and being told what to do. But that's not what these people are interested in. They're not worried about actual sexism. They want to make feminism look bad by making this specific woman who is comfortable in her own body. She said on Twitter and on her platforms that like she's choosing to do this. She's comfortable. She actually likes doing it. And that's what feminism is, being comfortable in your body and doing what you want with your body. So I think it's really dumb, personally.
I agree. The thing that kind of bothers me the most is just the fact that it's not about Stephanie Hamill actually thinking that, you know, this is bad for women. It's her. She wants to take a shot at a feminist. She wants to try to delegitimize the argument. So I think just right off the bat, her argument's in the wrong place. But
I find it a little bit weird because the music itself isn't very political at all. Like, the tweet itself just brings out like a political quote. They're just like bringing politics into something that's completely not political at all. It's literally just about twerking, which honestly I'm a little bit uncomfortable with.
Because you're such a sweet boy.
But I mean, it just feels a little bit weird how they're just like, why does this not represent feminism? And they're like, and I'm like, well, the whole point of the video isn't to bring out like politics. It's just to be comfortable with yourself.
Yeah.
Like that's all there is to it. Like granted, like I'm not comfortable with twerking because I'm not comfortable like that. But I mean, other people are, and they should just be allowed to do that.
I think the idea of politicizing both women's bodies and just dancing in general is kind of an odd area. I don't see how a woman showing any part of her body at any point in time should be considered this radical thing that goes against feminism, because the point of feminism really is supposed to be that you're empowered to express yourself, and that's what they were doing. So I can't say I agree with it, but a lot of people have spoken out and saying that in a sense, they aren't really necessarily doing it for themselves. People argue that they're doing it for the male gaze. The reason they're twerking on screen is because they think men will watch, and that's kind of a selling point. So what is your thought on that?
Well, because women have a right to do what they want with their bodies, they have the right to decide who they want to look at their bodies. She knows her audience. She knows she's going to make money off of it, and she's comfortable knowing that these men are going to look at her. And that's what I meant earlier about, like, we could be talking about the entertainment industry and how men in power are telling women, like, you need to twerk to make money. But that's not what the conversation about. It's about Cardi B herself twerking. And if she's okay with it, if she's okay with the men that are going to watch her and sexualize her, she's making money off of it, she's fine with it.
So do you not think it's hypocritical to one day say, like, women should have their own thing, they should be in control of their own life, and then on the next day just be more or less putting yourself out there for the male gaze?
No, I mean, that's saying to me that, like, if I were to say women can't be looked at by men, even if a woman wants them to be looked at, that's just so strange. They have a right to decide who their audience is. Does that mean that no female entertainer can be on screen because a man is going to find her attractive?
Valid.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I do find it a little bit weird though how they always use the marketing of women's bodies for music in just general. I mean, when I think of music, I like just to listen to the lyrics and stuff. So like when I watch music videos and I see stuff like that, I'm like, for me, the music video shouldn't be used as a way to like basically just market it to a larger audience, because for me that's just exploiting a lot of people, and like especially like males. When I watch music videos, I don't really care about visuals. I really care about like how does it tie to a story? Is there a larger concept there?
Yeah.
Like because in all, music should tell something. It shouldn't just say like, oh, we're gonna market women's bodies just because we know guys like to look at it. And guys, honestly, if you're watching a music video to watch girls twerk, that's a little bit not
A little
great.
sad.
Yeah.
That being said, people, I think, music and sex have gone together for a really long time, and that's not a female thing. I mean, if you look at like male performers, I think look at any Jason Derulo song, my mind went straight to Talk Dirty to me. All he was just oiled up and shirtless. Brendan Urie, Boys, Boys, Girls, that is literally a 4-minute video where literally it's nothing but him in a black room naked.
Yep.
And so sex is always sold for music, and so I think to just be like, well, it's a woman twerking is anti-feminist. No, I mean, that's just how the industry works, and maybe we, like you said, we could have that discussion. Why does sex and music go together? Why are we making someone's art into something sexy to sell it more? That's a different conversation, but just to come out and say, no, I don't think so, I think that that's problematic in its own right. But it's something that happens often, and not just in music, in kind of the entire entertainment industry. While back, Emma Watson, who doesn't love Hermione Granger? She was very, very vocal in being a feminist. She was actually one of the lead speakers for the UN on feminist issues, and then she did a Vanity Fair shoot. And in the Vanity Fair shoot, she exposed quite a bit of cleavage and like large portions of her breast. And then almost instantly, people had like regaled her as this fantastic feminist. They then tore her down and said that she was an anti-feminist and she was going against women. Why do you think people have such visceral reactions to feminists kind of reclaiming their body and choosing to show it?
I think a lot of it is just misunderstanding what feminism is. A lot of the time, like I think we have in society this ingrained idea of what the ideal female is, and that's someone like, and I'm not saying that's wrong, but like your Michelle Obama. It's like very poised, very well spoken, and that's a valid idea of feminism and like what a woman is. But she's not the only type of woman. And I hate to say it, but we have body parts, and maybe they're deemed as attractive by society, but like that doesn't mean we can't show them because other people find them attractive or disgusting or something. So to say that feminism is just like constantly being like arm length business suit, that's just not accurate. Anybody can be a feminist.
Yeah.
I think it's all about being comfortable with your own body. I mean, it's definitely like there's a lot of other issues with like that feminism tackles, but like one of the major points is being comfortable with yourself and realizing like not everyone has the same style. Not everyone has like the same kind of like mentality as everyone else. And I definitely enjoy how feminism allows people to sort of branch out. Like I like feminism in that it always challenges what's to be expected of people. You know, like it always says, what if we could go one more step with respecting others? Like an understanding that hey, that's themselves, and no matter what everyone else says, just because they're like that doesn't mean we should judge them.
My favorite thing in the world is talking about how good feminism is. I love feminism. But on that note, I kind of am in the same boat as you guys, where I think the issue really does come into I think a lot of people have strange ideas of what feminism is supposed to be. Because I think what you gave was a perfect example, is where we all are looking for a Michelle Obama, or not everyone, but a lot of people want a Michelle Obama where she's a very dignified, classy, covered up, kind of business-esque woman, which is very valid to be. Michelle Obama's my whole world. But I think that, like you said, that's not the only woman. However, while I don't agree with it, I would like to argue for some women who have issues with it, because Emma Watson was kind of putting on that image of she was kind of the Michelle Obama businesswoman, and then she changed. And I think for a lot of women who have spent their entire lives, no matter what they wear, being sexualized and being seen as sexual objects, and so their goal for feminism is for them to just be seen as people, to have someone who was looking like that then switch over and kind of pose in a sexual manner, I'm sure that would be jarring and probably quite a bit upsetting, where now in your mind, once again, it's just a woman being sexualized, and so that if that's not what she wanted, I can really understand that.
But that's what I think goes back to the conversation about the bigger picture, about the male gaze and the people that are like, we can use you for, selling to men.
Yeah.
And also, like, I'm not the biggest fan of Emma Watson. I know that's like a taboo, specifically her acting, but that's a different story. She's not that good, okay? He's gonna hit me.
You ever seen Perks of Being a Wallflower?
Have you seen the Beauty and the Beast remake?
I liked it.
It was awful. Anyway, but she is definitely an outspoken feminist, and I don't think her positions are wrong in any way. Like, just because she wants to do a photo shoot, she knows she looks great.
She looks fantastic. How could you not?
I think also some of it boils down to power and control. We're fine with feminists, but they can't get too crazy. They can't be so comfortable with their body that they don't need men to tell them that they're not beautiful. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think we also forget that a lot of the times that they're also human. Like, we always forget, like, celebrities are constantly surveyed by, like, tabloids and everyone. They're like, oh my gosh, so and so changed up their hairstyle, let's criticize them for that. Like, there's constantly, like, negative thoughts and like actions, and like they're constantly being criticized, like, just so that someone appeared in a shoot the next day and they're not dressed up in all business formal attire doesn't mean that they're a different person. They're just different clothes on, and that's all that matters, honestly. Like, I think that people forget, like, you can have different styles.
Well, I really do think that, like you said, it's like we're a human thing, and people, honestly, they like to feel sexy. I actually very recently did a burlesque shoot. It was weird. I got very undressed, but at the end of the day, I don't think that takes away from the fact that I consider myself a very intellectual person. I consider myself a fairly serious person, and I do. Emily, I do a lot of good work here.
He does.
So hurt. But yeah, I think people in general deserve, and celebrities included, they deserve to feel sexy and do things that make them feel that way. That being said, or for people kind of not putting her down, but on the other side of the spectrum, Cardi B, who a lot of their work is they are provocative, to say the very least. And not just saying she's a sexual woman, Cardi B is very outspoken and things that wouldn't necessarily be considered like the classiest of things. She does a lot of them, and again, that's not putting her down, but do you think that when celebrities like that join into like feminist movements or any social movement, that it can do damage to them?
It can, depending on the message you're trying to convey. But I feel at the end of the day, Cardi B's message is just like, I'm comfortable doing this, and if you're comfortable doing it, great. If she was actually trying to go into a setting, like a more professional setting, like if she was trying to go into a UN meeting and she starts just twerking in the middle of the floor, I think that's where we'd have a problem, because there's time, place, and manner. But her place and time for speaking is the stage. She's a performer. What do you want from her? Do you not want her to go on stage and perform for you? I don't know what we want.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it does fall back on who we're dealing with in terms of feminism. Like, for example, like Emma Watson, like, even though she was an actress, like, she, like, didn't let that define her, and like she actually like participated in a lot of UN stuff, which is fantastic. I think that like, like we're expecting people to, sort of push for feminist movements, and it's sort of hard to define that, honestly. Like, sometimes it's like, it's in different formats everywhere, but you have to recognize that they're always trying to push it, moving it forward, Like, on occasion it can be controversial, but I mean, isn't every movement controversial?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think at the end of the day, there's never going to be a perfect woman. You're never going to have the perfect feminist. And so you just have to take what women say that they believe in, you have to take it at their value, and you have to understand that they have their own private lives and their own decision. You know who else has their own private lives? You, and Google doesn't want that. See, Google was actually just fined in France 50 million euros, which translates to about $57 million by the National Data Protection Committee in France. The reason for this is they kind of overstepped some privacy laws in collecting data, specifically with data mining. So what are your guys' initial thoughts on this?
This is a hard topic to cover, because we especially have grown up in a climate where we're just kind of used to it. Like, we're kind of like, oh, Facebook's watching our privacy, okay, accept agreement. But I personally am not okay with it, and I feel like this lawsuit is very warranted. Data mining is, it just, they can get anything out of
Yeah.
you. And they use that to market to you. They use that to sell your information to other people, and God knows what they're doing with it. I don't know.
I feel like the interesting thing with me when it comes to data mining is that a lot of corporations, like, yeah, they have a couple of your basic information and stuff, but they're able to derive a lot of data that is typically not just given to them. You know, like, they're able to tell you your shopping habits, like what time of day are you typically awake, how long are you on your phone. And I feel like, yeah, a lot of people like to criticize Facebook recently, but Google is so much bigger.
Yep.
You have no idea. Like, of course, they control Android, they control Google Maps, the Google Play Store, your little Google searches, Google
They track
Drive.
your location so they can show you like stores around you to advertise to, which is terrifying.
I mean, it's so vast. It's so huge. And like, yeah, I mean, you could turn off location services for like one thing, but like Google has like a dozen things tracking you. And like every time I usually like plug in a service or something like that, like usually I go through the entire like user agreement and like be like, all right, I know what to check off here. I know what to check off there. Like,
I don't. I just sign it.
I've never met a person that actually does that.
Eli is absolutely the type to do it.
I know.
Like you're so like just smart, and also I believe the fact that you're like, I can't sign a thing and say I did something I didn't do. It's very kind of you.
I mean, the thing is like, it all comes down to like user experience, because like, if I remember right, when I was installing Windows recently, there was a way to scroll down on the menu and say like, uncheck all these kind of privacy things, because by default, a lot of the times they're just checked on it. Like,
Right.
you know, like watch my location, that's usually checked by default. And like, that's what a lot of those fines were, is that a lot of those things are just checked by default, which is something that I think the EU changed recently. They're like, hey, you can't have all these privacy things turned on by default. You have
Right.
to let them, you know, sort of be themselves for a bit, which is, I mean, I think it's a good step for them, but it's really hard to control because Google has so many users,
Yeah.
and there's so many different phones and versions and services.
At this point, they are a mega corporation that you can't really get away from. I don't think that there's really going to be a time in your day, like at any point in your day, where you're not within like 100 feet of a Google product.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, data mining is really, like we've been saying, just it's a collection of your information through your phone, your search history, your location, basically everything. And they use that to try and more or less sell you as a product to advertisers. And so before, you used to have to consent to things. You used to have to be like, oh, well, yes, you can use my information. But we've gotten to a point in the digital age where they're just collecting all that anyways, and they're selling it, which is why Google's in trouble. And I'm gonna take a bit of the opposite spin on you guys, because I like data mining.
What? What?
I've never met another person who agrees with me on this.
I sort of do.
I love it. Okay, because here's the thing. I will literally, depending on where I am, they start sending me ads for a store. I found out about a very nice coffee place in Muncie because I was around it and I didn't even know. I was really into kalimba videos for a while, so it started trying to sell me kalimbas. I have a kalimba now. Here's the thing. As much as like they know everything you enjoy, they market to you perfectly. And so while yes, is it an invasion of privacy? I don't care, because now I have a kalimba.
See, the thing is like, you've succumbed to capitalism, sir.
Yoinks, have I
You
ever.
traitor.
See, like, I honestly don't mind like getting data mined, because I know what they have. I know what things that they like sort of guess about me. They're like, I'm like, you know what? I just see all these ads. I just ignore them. I'm a professional ignorer.
I'm not. I'm really susceptible to ads. I'm like, oh my gosh, cool. I can get a clarinet? No way.
I'm like, yeah, of course I see an ad for the thing I just clicked on on Amazon. Like, of course, because I was literally just searching that a minute ago, which is a little bit scary because like Amazon now communicates through Facebook with ads, and like that was the thing that really threw me off the most, because like I was on the Amazon app like one day, and then I was on Facebook, and it's like, here's these products that we suggest. I'm like, I just looked those up the other day. But you know
No
what?
joke. Every time I get on my phone or my laptop, there is some sort of ad for a flannel product. Rather it be like bedspreads, towels, anything. They know I
They
love
have
flannel.
you, man.
They know it.
Okay, but here's my counter to that. So one of my friends was thinking of proposing to her girlfriend. She was talking to me about the ring. So on their home computer, on Facebook, on her girlfriend's laptop, you know what ads start showing up all over? Wedding products.
Oh, and that's the scary part. It's getting to the point where it's not just if you've like searched for it. Now it's because the way phones work. It's if you've talked about it. It's if you've like been in an area around it.
It feels like if you're thinking about it.
Yeah. So I do see the argument that like it's getting to a point where you have zero privacy and it's just really about like if you've spoken about something. That was an issue. Is one time I spent a really long time talking about how much I hate AirPods, and then the next day I had a bunch of AirPod ads.
Did you buy them?
I didn't, but I'm thinking about it.
They have you, man.
But
God.
like there was like a commercial and it like looked really cool and everyone liked their AirPods, so I did get it.
I don't know. It's just there's something very intimidating to me about how many different businesses are collecting data on me and who they're selling it to. It's not so much the businesses themselves. Like, we all know Facebook, we know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But they're using it for political uses.
Oh, yeah.
That's not okay. It influenced the election heavily.
Heavily.
And that's where it's not so much the ads. Like Eli said, I can just keep scrolling, who cares, unless, I'm trying to plan a wedding and then it gets a little complicated. But when we start influencing politics and human rights and everything based off of that, that's to me where it gets scary because it becomes a form of control.
Yeah.
I mean, for myself, I know that typically a lot of the things that I see, usually I just ignore them. I don't know. I just know that even like the apps that you download on a constant basis, like if you go into your like iPhone settings or Android settings, you can like literally see like what they're getting from your phone as you go along through them. And I know for a fact, like, a lot of people just honestly just leave those settings by default. Like, they just click it on accept and stuff. So, like, honestly, it's half and half on the fault. Like, half on the users because they realize that, like, they're just now realizing how much data they've been able to collect throughout the years. And then on the other half, they haven't really done much about it. They haven't really, like, said, like, no, I'm not going to install Facebook. I'm not going to do this because, like, how can you say no? Like, that's like the weird other half. It's like, there's just so many sides to this.
Well, that brings me to my next point, which, do you think anything can really be done about this, or do we just have to more or less just be like,
yes,
Google got me?
Laws can definitely be put in place to protect consumers. Again, for me, it's not so much about them marketing to me, it's about them selling information, and that is what we need to start regulating because, you don't know who's using that data for what. You don't know who sketchy guy in like some country across the sea is like using that for.
Which has happened.
Which is happening. And I mean, like, they store your data. Like, you think you can delete something and get yourself, if you have a Facebook, a Twitter, you're on the internet, they're going to find you. They're going to market to you. And with children who are using social media so much more often, these laws are not written, like, contracts are not in layman's terms.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily user friendly. They're purposely writing the contracts in a way that's like, just click OK, it's good.
I agree that I would like something to be done about selling information. The one thing that always gets me is, so we've discussed that they sell your like location and they sell that to advertisers. So if you have like an iPhone or you've ever been on the internet, they have your address and they kind of sell that information to people. So really anyone buying can have your address, which isn't that scary. So I kind of agree that like there should be something done.
Oh my gosh, okay, a HelloFresh box came to my house.
Oh yeah.
I wonder, like, we've never ordered it. I wonder if somebody data mined me and was like, she looked at that website once and they bought me HelloFresh with my credit card, mind you. This is the issue in America right now.
I mean, for myself, I think that the main issue is that a lot of governments don't understand how the internet works. They don't understand like that like there's huge data centers. There's like ginormous. They're protected by like basically just armed personnel to like. If you look at Facebook data centers, they have dozens of them, and they're just filled with servers containing just every information. That's the thing is, they have so many users that like for me, I'm just another person.
Right.
But then at the same time, I'm like, yeah, when they get hacked, it's millions of users because once you hack the system, like sort of easily, like a lot of their protocols are built off the same stuff. So like once you're in, like you can work your way around.
Yeah.
It's a little bit scary, but like honestly, it all comes down to security for them.
It does. Stop, and this is to my mother. Stop having the same password on everything, Mom. Just you're going to get hacked. It's fine. It's not. But
Is it password?
I can't tell you online. I'll see it.
Fair enough.
But I really do think that it's getting pretty bad, and I would like to think it's going to get better, but I'm dubious. And you know what else is not going to get better? The Oscars.
It's true.
It's true.
We're laughing, but
the Oscars are terrible. So the Oscars are coming up. We just released the nomination list. We've now confirmed that there's not a host this year. And everything about the Oscars this year has been a just giant mess. So let's start unpacking that. We'll start with the host thing. I'm sure you've heard Kevin Hart. He was supposed to host, and then he was like, I'm not going to host because I said some homophobic things in the past that people didn't appreciate. And I sort of apologized, or I said I apologized, but not everyone really felt like it was an apology. Ellen did, though. Is that good enough? So we're now at the point where the Oscars are just not going to have a host because Kevin Hart never really came back. So what are your thoughts on them not having a host?
I love it. I hope this is like the beginning of the end, personally.
Yeah.
I feel like they can get by fine without a host. It's already not the most structured event. Well, it is. It's just, it's not like the hosts really add anything. Usually
Yeah.
I'm like, please stop talking. Like,
Right.
if they could just show the names of the winners, like I feel like we'd all actually watch it, maybe. But in regards to Kevin Hart, it's kind of complicated because it kind of boils down to like, do we forgive him for the things he said in the past?
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm the person to answer that, but
Right.
I think a better apology might have mitigated some of the hate going his way, but that's just my take.
Yeah.
I mean, I do feel like the Oscars will probably be lacking this year because, like, I feel like the host is meant to drive the direction of the show. They're like, hey, we're going to keep this thing rolling. Like, yeah, they usually are really good for jokes and stuff, but I think that people sort of underestimate, like, saying, like, hey, this person is the center of the show. Like, we have someone to go to. Like, usually, like, they can sort of rein things back in. And, like, I have a feeling every time I like watch an awards show, it just feels like they just add so much and more on, and like it just gets so overwhelming. And I'm just like, this show is like almost 4 hours. Like I can't stand it. Like I just need it to be shorter. There's just so much stuff that just needs to be cut out. Like, ugh.
Well, genuinely, the way these things usually go is a controversy does drive ratings, and so I'm sure that a lot of people tune in to see if this kind of mess of an Oscars turns out to be as big of a mess as people thought it was. I think Kevin Hart stepping back really only helped. In terms of Kevin Hart, like you said, I'm not exactly in a position to say whether or not we forgive him. In terms of Ellen DeGeneres, she kind of caused some controversy by being the one to forgive him.
Yeah.
She, I think, did. I love Ellen, but she kind of overstepped her bounds, in my opinion. She is someone who is a friend of him and also a very privileged woman.
Yes.
I'm not saying that her voice as a lesbian woman is not a very powerful one, and she doesn't deserve to speak out on these issues, but she kind of made herself the final call. She contacted the Oscars herself and she said, I forgive you, and made it seem as if everyone else should as well.
Yep.
And so I really do think she just sort of overstepped there, because there was a lot of people who are not friends with Kevin Hart and who are also in less of a privileged position who spoke up and said that I don't like what he said about the LGBTQ community, and I really don't like that he isn't quite apologizing for it. While in his mind he has apologized in the past, so that doesn't mean he needs to apologize again. To those people he did, and while that works for Ellen, it doesn't work for them, and so I think she sort of overstepped her bounds there. Driving it back to the Oscars, I do think that this will only help. Like you said, a host is really just there to introduce the next celebrities coming on stage. We all know who these people are.
Yeah.
They can walk on stage just fine.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it'll really do too much damage.
Can I put my tinfoil hat on?
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to throw out there, like, every award show for films, it's just an advertisement. Like, I think if we just stop pretending it's like the super big deal, like the best of the best are winning, I think we'll all be happier. It doesn't matter if Kevin Hart's there or not. Like, no matter what, the picks aren't going to be the best. Like, everyone's going to be disappointed. They're going to have some skits in there probably that offend somebody. I don't know.
Remember the really weird reparation?
That's where I was going.
in these things? I'm still uncomfortable on that one. But will you expand on that, what you mean by the Oscars are just an ad?
Okay, so first off, think of it this way, like, the judges are, it just comes from being like a film studies major, to be honest. Like, most of the time the judges aren't watching all the movies that come out. They generally aren't, and that's why a lot of genres specifically get overlooked. You have to look at who the judges are for the most part. They're typically white men. And so if these movies aren't in specific like genres that appeal to that demographic, they're usually not going to watch it. Or if the genre doesn't appeal, like just in general, like horror, it's very rare a horror film is ever going to win anything. Children's animated movies, they're going to pick what's most popular amongst the audience. They're not going to watch it for the most part, unless their daughter or something watched it. It's not like they're forced to watch all the movies that came out to actually pick what deserves the awards. And think of all the indie films that aren't even up in the running. That would change everything. What they're doing is they're picking what is doing best at the box office, controversy that can make the films like talked about and sell. Their primary goal is not to highlight art and the best of the best. It is to make big budget movies sell more.
Also, the Oscars has the least amount of judges out of any academy there is. And not only that, like a lot of the times, like I've been reading quite a bit of articles about like the academy and just how they give out awards in general. And a lot of the times they just get bribed. They just get bribed with stuff, like how Denzel Washington actually won his award a while back when he's like, yeah, we had a brunch with all the judges, and like I just came up and basically just talked about the movie. They watched the movie, and that's how I won the award. And he said that during his speech. Yeah. And I'm just like, what are these anyways? Like, basically you just give out money to the judges and hope that your money or your movie makes more money. Like, it's basically just pouring some money in to get more money out. And a lot of these judges don't even know what the movies are.
No, I agree. I think the problem that we're facing is we have gotten to a point where award shows have lost a lot of their legitimacy. And I don't think people put much faith in them. And so I really do think that this is kind of the beginning of a decline for the Oscars. That being said, what are your guys' closing thoughts on this or anything else we talked about today?
Just look up a list of who won. You'll save a lot of time. If there's a good skit, it'll be on YouTube in like an hour. So don't waste your time is my advice.
Valid.
And I would always say just be skeptical no matter what people say, whether or not it's Google trying to advertise to you a clarinet or the Oscars saying that Ready Player One is the best film out there.
Choice.
Just be skeptical.
I think Oscars, they're pretty lame. Data mining, I'm weirdly here for it. And Cardi B, I liked the song. But thank you guys for joining me. I've been your host, Matthew Yapp. Joining me today was
Emily Reuben
and
Eli Sokeland.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Get off my phone.
Okay, Eli, stare at this. Oh, hi, I didn't see you there. I'm award-winning podcast host, Matthew Yapp. Welcome back to the Can you imagine? I should. Oh, I'm gonna start every podcast, but I'm award-winning podcast host, Matthew Yapp.